Hello and welcome to this cardboard over here. Let's rewind to year 2022 when I was returning from MTB holiday and thinking that it's time for a new more capable bike. I wanted more travel than 107mm, coil shock and mallet setup. Freeride or super enduro bike is what I was aiming for. So I was considering three options: Norco Shore, Nuke-Proof Giga and Propain Spindrift. And fourth, bonus option, Canyon Torque. Some of these bikes are made exclusively in carbon fiber. Torque was rather quickly crossed off the list, since Canyon bikes in size medium doesn't fit me that well. Giga comes equipped with coil shock only in factory spec, which is too expensive. Norco Shore doesn't have mallet option, but on the other hand it has high pivot suspension design, by which I'm very much intrigued. Looks like Propain Spindrift ticks all the boxes for me. Excellent value for money, longest suspension travel out of 4, fully customizable components, which goes a long way if you are very specific about components that you want to have. My personal preference is Magura brakes and RockShox suspension. Surprisingly small price difference between carbon and alloy frames made me strongly consider buying carbon frame. Though once upon a time I told myself that there is no way I'm buying carbon frame without lifetime warranty, which in the matter of fact Propain doesn't offer. They have a 5-year crash replacement warranty, which is valid for original owner of the frame. There is no official estimate how much would replacement cost, but on social networks prices floating around 500 euros per carbon frame triangle. So for about a half of a year I kept close eye on Propain bikes. For those of you who doesn't know, Propain is a German brand based in town named Vogt, not far from Switzerland border. They are a relatively new company with relatively limited R&D capabilities. In year 2023 you can buy 4th generation Spindrift. In this generation, carbon frames were introduced for the first time. Spoiler alert. I decided to take a risk with carbon Spindrift despite common sense advising me to buy alloy frame. My biggest concerns were unacceptably small shock frame clearance and durability of carbon frame. Customer support assured me that all shocks available in configurator are 100% compatible, despite photos on social networks showing practically an existing shock frame clearance if equipped with newest RockShox Super Deluxe Coil Ultimate. For several times in the past, I found Propain lacking in R&D side of things, so this was not surprising. So this brings us to much bigger concern: quality of Spindrift carbon frame. All sponsored riders most likely are obliged by contract not to talk about frame defects, so the best way to judge a frame is to turn to community of fellow owners. And fellow owners sharing all kinds of issues left and right. The fair conclusion is that these carbon frames are in galaxy far away from perfect. At least several people had the frame cracked at a linkage point out of nowhere. Of course, frames were replaced under warranty, but still that leaves people with massive disappointment, wasted time and energy. I wonder if Propain did address some of these frame design flaws since the release, or just keep printing same old frames over and over. One can encounter other issues like derailleur hanger ungluing and trashing rear frame triangle, bottom bracket shell ungluing, shock mounting bolt snapping when reinstalling the shock, Acros headset being unreliable, just to name a few. If you desperately want a affordable carbon MTB, I would strongly advise against buying it from Propain. Canyon is a much larger company with a lot bigger R&D potential. Buying Canyon would be a lot safer option. Before we continue, quick shout out to products I genuinely like. Hashtag not sponsored. Ergon SME saddle, small yet comfortable. By far the grippiest flat pedals, Kamikaze 3.0, or the Rogue grips, stance sealant and tubeless valves. I was not sure if Spindrift would come with current gen or previous gen shock. I was pleased to see the bike with current gen RockShox Super Deluxe Coil Ultimate, and to my relief, clearance is good enough. Right away I noticed several small problems, some of them related to my personal preferences. Too short cables for my liking. I prefer when handlebars can make full 360-degree turn. Of course, shorter cables look cleaner, but still it would be no fun to rip them off in case of a crash. Setup with moto-style brakes would look scuffed on this frame, unless rocking wireless dropper or shifter. Frame has one opening on the left and two openings on the right. So now I'm forced to convert brakes from a moto to regular setup on all my other bikes. First world problem, having more than one bike. I didn't know that at the time, but when ordering from Propain, you can specifically ask for moto style brakes, but they not gonna drill another hole in the left side of the frame anyway. Propain decals are on top of the clear coat. I was expecting that all decals would be on the clear coat. The rear tire was not seated on the rim properly. Nevertheless, I am converting to tubeless straight away. If you are ordering Spindrift with Maxxis tires, front tire comes with thinner casing. Pretty much straight away I will be replacing it with double down Assegai tire. Due to suspension design, it's extremely difficult to adjust preload if the coil is already preloaded a good amount. It is difficult to get a good grip on the coil. Shifting was off by quite a bit, and I was unable to fix it to 100%. Most likely the derailleur hanger is bent straight out of the box. There is also a huge issue that might be a deal breaker for some people. With current gen Super Deluxe Ultimate, RockShox introduced a hydraulic bottom out adjustment, which is located on the bottom here. Standard angled 3mm Allen key can't fit in between shock and the linkage. You definitely don't want to remove shock every time you want to adjust something. Using different shock may present different issues, which I'm obviously not aware of. Moving on to the positive note, Bash Guard mount is integrated in bottom bracket spacer and not screwed directly to the frame. Raw carbon looks magnificent. The derailleur is slightly tilted backwards and that makes it a little bit more off the ground, which is always welcome. Seems like all cables and hoses are isolated from the frame good enough. Rubbing cables can cause severe damage to the frame, especially in carbon case. Cables in the rear triangle are externally routed. That makes servicing brakes a little easier. Stock rim tape looks tough and durable. Here you are some close-up shots of various clearances on the bike and suspension adjustment controls. My first ride was cut short by coil being too soft. Rear suspension was constantly bottoming out, even on small features. Since I'm in between spring sizes, I decided to go for a softer spring, because I prefer plusher ride. I like how Canyon includes 3 different coils if buying MTB with coil shock. That makes hassle of choosing the spring rate easy. While I was setuping the bike, it was very noisy, sounded like loose linkage or spring rattling, but when I went for a ride, everything was nice and quiet. Curved rear triangle provides improved foot clearance, heels not clipping the frame while pedaling. Pedaling position is very comfortable and upright. Some people complaining about C-tube being too high. Since I didn't have a chance to ride it properly, can't comment on that. I noticed that Zep dives a lot more under braking than I'm used to, but that can be addressed rather quickly with low speed compression adjustment. Shout out to Remy Metalier for shamelessly selling me this bike. Check out his YouTube channel if you haven't already, and make sure to subscribe to my channel cause I will be making second part to this video where I will show you what it's like to own a Propain bike. Until then, ciao!